you're new to pool and practicing the basics, or a more experienced player performing drills to improve your shot making and positional play, the Drill Partner is perfect for you.
I don't know if I'm ready for this one, buddy.
Well, our shows are getting earlier and earlier, right? Because they're done so damn early in the day.
Yeah. Well, the over went for today. That's for sure. So
yeah. The
uh,
other one for today. You had it on. Did you have it on 2 matches or 3? 3.
I think we all picked the same score line at 11-3, didn't we? So which is what they ended up
Yeah, I
with,
think so.
11-3.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that was just more for like, respect and you got to figure they were going to play a little more loose, which they did. So, but we got a fun show
Well,
in
I mean,
store.
I'm kind of, listen, I appreciate it, and I would expect that they would go down, but they're talking about putting up a valiant fight, and I think more pressure got added. They won 2 matches. It's like, okay, pump the brakes a little bit, guys. But yeah, it's.
Dad said 11-3.
I did say 11.
I see. I thought 3 because I gave them a little bit of credit. I just thought that it was just like, you gotta figure they're gonna show, somebody's got to show up someday. Like the odds were just in their favor to at least get a couple more to their belt. But although we're gonna do a little bit of reporting. We got Coach Johan in the wings. We're gonna bring him on in, and he's coming with the heat mic. So whenever we did the show yesterday, obviously we had Darren on. It was a great show, ton of insight. And the one thing I always appreciate about having Darren on is that he'll tell it like he feels it. You know what I mean? He's a passionate guy, and I love when you're not just like riding the train, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Darren says your own is 50, buddy. There you go.
Put it on my. But Darren, as long as you're on the chat too, when Johan gets in there, throw a couple questions into the chat. I'd love to hear your discussions with Johan about your questions to Johan too. But about today, we knew that the first match from yesterday, we knew what the first matches were going to be, right? We knew Jay was coming out in singles, and we knew what the really what the whole lineup was today was what should have been the end of yesterday. So 11 through 15. Theoretically, we're going to be the final match for day 3. So we essentially never got into day 4 of the format. We never got into the run of singles match. The lineups were kind of almost forced today. They had to be what they were based on previous matches. Every player had to play singles once before any could play a second time. And they had all the doubles matches. You couldn't play doubles again, that type of thing. So we pretty much knew, it was pretty much set in stone what these had to be, except for match 15, which kind of surprised me a little bit because match 15 was the free singles match. The coach could pick whoever they wanted. And we both would have bet big money that Jason would have put himself out there. Right?
I mean, yeah.
I was kind of surprised because you knew that they were going to go with Carlo, Team Asia. So I was kind of a little surprised that Team Rest of the World put up Federer in that free match as opposed to Jason. I'm just curious to see. I don't know whether I think they probably had to announce their final 5 singles matches, and I would have been interested to see what that was.
I mean, I'm sure they had it queued up, ready to go. We never saw that. We never saw that lineup get posted online, though, so we'll never know what they were intending.
Well, we may know. I did message in to find out if we could find out what that was, or if they were going to let them get to match 15 and then let the captains redo the lineup. But there was a post on Room Pool that said, the final lineups, the lineups are in for the final day. So that to me said, that they had the singles match started lined up too. And I'm just curious. I would like to see how they were going to stack that up if they thought that they could get that far.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't seem like anybody had much faith in terms of them getting to the point in the match, or the point in the tournament in which they ended. To be honest with you, even throughout the commentary and otherwise, everyone was kind of. Well, I mean, they knew they were going to play a little loose. Obviously, they put up more of a fight,
Yeah.
put up more points than what we saw in the first 2 days. What did we start off with today, Mike? I think it was what was the first
Yap
match?
and Yap,
Yap and who?
Yap and Shaw in singles.
Oh, and didn't Yap just tear him a new one? Right? Didn't even. I don't think it was much of a fight if I remember right.
Oh, it was 4-0 before Jason got on. Jason missed a shot early. Yap didn't miss anything. Got up 4-0. Ended up winning 5-1. So yeah, this was. They thought they were going to try to do the same thing they did last year, throw Jason out there last day in singles, and try to make try to get into the crowd's head a little bit, get a little more energy going, whatever, and it didn't pan out at all.
Following that, Mike, it was who was it? It was up next was
Juan and Yap against Jason.
Jason and Sky
against the newly announced Mosconi Cup captains, which I'm sure came as a complete shock to everyone.
I did not see that coming at all.
Didn't see that coming at all.
No. Did not see that coming at all. It came as a complete shock and surprise. Yeah, and that's a whole other interesting part of it. And it was kind of like you announce it when they get 10-2 at that point. That like the wind had already come out of the sails. It just felt real like anticlimactic, really different compared to like every other Mosconi Cup captain announcement. But kudos to Jay and Sky. We knew just based off of their body language and the way that they like who they are as individuals that they would gel well together, right? Because they kind of got similar personalities in a sense.
Yeah.
Trying to keep it light. Both have done good things on the Mosconi Cup stage, but. So they secure that victory, get to 10-2, and then you think, okay, now it's Chua's turn coming in as a singles against Fran. It was an interesting stat that I saw. First of all, in the previous one was that Yap hadn't dropped a match in the Reyes Cup history up until that doubles with Wong, and then the following one was that Chua and Fran hadn't secured a singles point at all in 2 years, and so which came as a bit of a surprise. Fran ended up getting the better of it. What do you think that one was worth, Mike? And then we'll end with the way that they finished off there.
Chua looked good, strong coming out. I thought that he was going to finish it off. I mean, I think he wanted to. Last year he said he didn't want to. That's why he put Yap out ahead of him. Or he wanted Yap to win and things like that. I think this year he really wanted to. He got up 3-1, then he kind of let it slip away from him. Fran made a couple of decent, good outs. I mean, Fran, I think probably took a little bit of solace in being able to pull off a single win here because he was not very good. So, and that, that gave him 2 wins in a row, which is something they can hang their hat on or, feel a little less bad about. But then when you saw AJ and Carlo coming out together, you pretty much knew the writing was on the wall.
Well, I kind of thought whenever it slid the first doubles match, I kind of thought, okay, it just Pool is very like romantic at times, and you just kind of, and not only that, but it can also be a little obvious at times too, in a sense, and it just kind of felt like it was set up for AJ to kind of win. But kudos to the kid. I mean, he had a phenomenal tournament. Neither one of us gave him, much credit, mainly because we just hadn't seen enough of him on a big stage. But he more than stepped up. Him finishing off with Carlo was the way that it should have been. I think anybody with 2 eyes would agree. Just the first of all, the respect that Carlo gets. Darren said it yesterday. We all know who he is, and so it was cool to kind of see them kind of celebrate that moment together. Maybe a taste of things to come.
It was the perfect pairing for them at that point, really, to have, the man and then your young guy. And so, he was going to respect anything Carlo said. Carlo was going to get him back in line if he ever got a little bit out of line. Carlo was going to get him to relax a little bit. So you knew that
it looked a little nervy, Mike. It looked a little nervy. There was a lot of communication between those two, which was a criticism that we had of team rest of the world, and including that doubles match between Federer and Moritz. There was a lot of this going on, and it seemed like it was counterproductive in my opinion, anyway. But kudos to the kid. He came with I want to say at least one monster shot that was incredibly strong, and then got a roll on a jump kick shot, which was awesome as well. So it seemed like it was already in the stars for the kid. You can't help but it's great that he was able to do that in his home country, being the MVP. Given how Matchroom is fond of the kid, you would imagine this all but locks up his spot for next year as well, Mike. Especially considering that if he was that low on the rankings this year and he got in, you'd imagine that given the MVP performance, he's going to be in next year as well. I would just call me crazy, but if anybody wants to bet that action,
a lot of it's going to depend on what the format is next year for qualifications. The cut on the
that was the one.
Two that he cut up the rail?
No, I think it was either the 3 or the 4 if I remember right. But there was one where Carlo had left him really tough, and but there was nothing you can do. Shorty says, "Did you hear the news? Billy Thorpe just got on the Mosconi Cup team."
We knew that the second we saw him in the stands today.
Did they announce that on the stream? Really? That's how they announced part of after Asia winning and the kid winning and the kid winning the MVP. They also announced Billy making the team. It's kind of
I don't know. That's me, but we did see him in the crowd today. They posted pictures of him, and I'm like, this is kind of the sign announcement that Billy's on Mosconi Cup, and
once you saw Billy in the stands, you knew it was a wrap. I was shocked that those guys are even in the Philippines because of the format, and Jenny Ann says it's fake news just because of the format. And I'm gonna bet Billy's on the team, and if anybody wants to take that, I'd be glad to take it on as well. But Jenny Ann says it's fake news. Well, you got us, Shorty Dancer. Hit me up, send me a PM. I'll send you some town chalk for getting us or getting me anyway on that one. Mike, you ready to bring in the coach here? Because I want to talk a little bit of balls and strikes. So you want to just go on about Asia here for another second or two?
No. It was a great event. They did P based on points. Or did they do MVP based on points? Is that
it was off the points. I think the kid had more matches, but he hadn't lost any. And if Yap would have won in the doubles, he would have gotten it. And then if Chua would have won, I think it would have been a split or whatever. I tried asking Matchroom. They weren't too keen on answering my question.
Still say Carlo was the best player in the entire event for 4 days.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, points are going to be points, and they mentioned whenever I think it was Yap that had the option to go and win going into the doubles that Carlo was in the commentary and gave a really honest answer, which I just appreciate. Was that hey, they might they should have it some kind of different system because sometimes it sets itself up to where if the guy who gets the most matches is going to be able to win the MVP, but like eyes would tell you that like more often than not that's not always like the passing the old eye test. So, but anyhow, massive congratulations, Team Asia, a solid team effort. You can tell from beginning to end they were absolutely united. They were in it together. They play with such intense passion and enthusiasm and just like a will to win, and you can tell. I heard an interesting comment in the commentary as well, where I don't remember if it was Yap or Huang, but they were saying, we're not just playing to win the match, we're playing to win every rack, and that was something you can tell when you're seeing these guys go out there and play, Mike. I got the utmost respect for the way they went out there and handled their business. They were like, they had their eyes on the prize. They were not using this as any kind of warm up for anything else. It was not a game. It was not a sideshow. It was not anything else. They were out there to win the Reyes Cup, and congratulations to them. So, anyhow, Mike, I heard Johan's coming in hot, real hot. I heard you got some news for us as well.
See where we go. We'll see where we head.
He doesn't do much of an introduction by any means. But before I bring him in, I want to tell you, I posted some windows open, so we were kind of like bantering about bringing him on, and I texted him and I said, Johan, can you come on tomorrow? And his response was, okay, but it ain't gonna be pretty. And so I was like, well, here we go. So with that, I'll go ahead and bring him on in. Multiple-time Mosconi Cup champion, Coach Johan. How are you, Coach? Welcome back.
I'm fine, thank you. Working hard at the moment in my house. I bought a new location quite close to my house, so I want to organize a training center. which is already a dream for me a couple of years. So that's going fine.
Congratulations. Yeah, you've been having just a stable of European monsters and worldwide monsters go through your camps, it seems like, including Pius, who just snapped off the Hanoi Open. Give me your thoughts on how we did out there before we jump on into the Reyes Cup.
Well, I couldn't see everything there, but I talked to him about it, and it was. I think it was you. He played really well in a lot of tournaments already. He showed that he's a class act, energy guy, has great habits. For example, this guy takes ice baths, does physical training, mental training, does everything that he can do. And next to that, he's a very, very nice guy and a very normal guy. So,
absolutely.
So I think he deserved it quite hard. Yeah.
What do you got, Mike?
No, I think I was happy for him. I think we all were. He is a hardworking guy, straight up nice kid, sharp, got good habits. Pretty much means that he's got no chance of ever being on my Mosconi Cup or anything like that, because he's not a big boisterous guy with 6,000 followers. But he's a great player. We all knew he was due. 4 semifinals in the last couple of years. Yeah. It was just, when was he going to break through? So he gave you a lot, Johan. But you're right. Even when he's on his own, because in Lithuania, not a lot of opportunities, to spar with other great players, things like that. I mean, they're getting better, but it takes a lot.
I don't know if you've seen the result of the World Youth Championships.
Yeah, they're youth. Yeah, their junior players are a couple of gold medal winners and European championships like that.
They're on the rise.
They're on the rise, but still, for the most part, he's in one of those situations where it takes a lot of self-discipline to train and get ready and all these things for these events, because he's not in a Germany or one of those other environments. So even more credit to him for that, because that's a hard thing to do, is to keep yourself laser focused, and it's all on you to do it. So congratulations to him.
Before we jump on into Team Row, Coach, I want to ask you about the Asians for a minute. You've seen them now for the last 2 years. Give me your thoughts on the way they performed and just their approach to this event.
Well, obviously, they've been waiting for this one. If you listen to the comments of Biardo after he made the winning shot, he's still shaking. I don't think that any of the rest of the world team would have been shaking on any shot. And that just tells me how important it is for them, and how much they were awaiting this chance to play a great team. On average, their position on the ranking is 7th, so that's quite high, and the same for Europe. And so, I mean, I don't really like the rest of the world format. I think it should have been Team Europe for lots of reasons. But I think this one was never going to succeed this way.
Yeah. Do you feel like it was too quick of a decision to jump on into the rest of the world versus having the Europeans take another swing and kind of maintaining that Mosconi Cup rivalry as a result as well?
Well, the thing is, you touched on that before in your podcast. Yeah. I think yes. I don't see I don't know all the politics and all the reasons why this changed and why it was so short in front. But obviously, Team Europe would have been stronger than this team. Yes.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. If you had a chance at picking your rest of the world team, not a European team, but a rest of the world team, what would have been your 5 choices, Coach?
Well, first of all, I should have been on the tournament to see how they're going. But seemingly, the first 3 picks would have been for Team World, Federer, probably Filler, and then Kachi, because they are on the rankings quite high. And then probably my picks would be people that I know and that I can work with and that are disciplined, have good habits, and that are good team players. So probably there would have been something like, if it would be open to me, it would probably be Wilson Hughes.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say Niels. I had a feeling that Niels was going to be one of your answers for sure. What do you got, Mike?
Well, you need a field captain. In my time in the Moscone Cup, in my first years I had Rolf Souquet as my field captain, the guy that kept everybody in place. And after he disappeared, then I got Darren, and he was my field captain. So we always need a guy on the floor and in the training room that keeps you focused.
Yeah.
And at this moment, I feel that there's a lot of fun, and there's a lot of friendship, and there's a lot of whatever, but there's nothing. I mean, if you still have to play in a Moscone Cup, are you going to show your best game, your best, your breaking secrets, for example? Are you going to show them to the Americans or to your opponent in a month's time? I don't know. That seems like the deeper meaning of this seems to disappear. It's all quite superficial. And there's no real trust and no real team. So that seems like these are very, very important things in a team match: trust, respect, and I don't think that's all there.
See, we talked about this the other day, and I'm curious. You just kind of touched on it. Do you really think that in this format with Team Rest of the World, that guys for the U.S. and guys for Europe were keeping secrets from each other, not really showing everything that they can show because they've got Moscone Cup coming up?
It's not about the secrets. It's also about, do you know each other very well? Full trust, the preparation. You're playing a formidable team, right? Asia, the number 2, 3, 4, I think on the ranking. They're world champions. So you need to have your details in order, and obviously, in my opinion, the rest of the world team didn't have their details in order at all. So,
what are some of those details?
Well, first of all, I mean, it's nothing personal, but just looking at it objectively, you're taking a coach there that just lost 5 times in a row with Team USA. If I'm, for example, Neuhausen, I don't know Jeremy as a player when I'm Neuhausen. I only know him from the 5 times lost in the Moscone Cup. So where's my respect for this guy? Where's my, trust in this guy? Because we're gonna try to win this cup, and we have to discuss lineups with each other. We have to discuss these things. And basically, what you're seeing here, and that's absolutely crazy. You basically have 3 captains in this team.
Yeah.
Jeremy, you got Sky, and you got the Eagle Eye.
Yeah.
They're all captains. So, I mean, who's going to make the lineups? Who's going to do the discussions? Who's going to do the motivational speeches? Who's going to do the preparation? Who's going to decide how long you play when you go to bed? What is the strategy? I don't know. It's going to be a bit of a hustle, right? With 3 captains.
Yeah, absolutely. And let me ask you this, because we asked Darren about it, and how hard is it, given the fact that the writing was on the wall that Sky and Jason were going to be picked for captains for the Moscone Cup. They announced that after their doubles match. But how hard is it to get through to guys like that, especially knowing how much that they're favored by Matchroom in some of these things? Like how much that they knew all year long they were going to be, at least for the better part of the year, they were going to be in on captain's picks. It's no surprise,
Yeah.
So how hard is it as a coach to be tough or set any kind of discipline on guys that know that in a sense they're kind of untouchable?
Well, they're not coaches; they're captains. First of all, right? Because it's one of the annoyances and irritations that I have is the complete disdain of the profession that I have, which is coach. It's very underestimated. First of all, you can ask yourself as a player, why does Skylar deserve to be the captain? Does he have the qualities to be the captain? And why does he get paid doubled? That will be, for me as a player, already be nothing personal against Sky, but that's just the way it's put up now. And I would have a problem with someone being paid extra and then having control over my game, which I wouldn't like. I'd rather have a guy that has real skills as a coach, help me to and help the team to work to win cups like this. But that's my personal opinion.
But how much does that hamstring you? Like, if you were to hypothetically, if you were going to go into that situation, like to be able to really put your foot down in terms of, setting hard boundaries when like, you know, that they're, nothing's going to happen to those guys. Like if they don't fall in line, it doesn't matter. They're still going to be out there come December.
Yep. Well, if you look at history, where it all started, when I became a coach in 2006, it was basically because we want to get rid of the player captain role, which only gave all kinds of problems with Oliver's army, some fights between the Germans, between Mika and Oliver. These things just didn't work. My players came back from Mosconi Cup losing 12-1 and having all these stories that just the chemistry wasn't there because they were all competitors towards each other. So when they brought in an outside coach, in this case it was me, I could smoothen these things out and I could actually blend them in as a team. And that worked. And the results show it. So I really do not understand why you would go back to a format that has proven not to work, although it's already 20 years ago. We're going back to, like, for me, a very strange format.
Do you think in large part it's because there's, you're an exception to the rule in my opinion, in terms of the level of coaching that you're actually at. And so when you're not in the equation, it seems like it's hard to find that type of coach / captain, in pool to run these teams.
I understand. But it kind of tells the story how I am treated and how Alex was treated and how we have been put to the side. Basically, only two educated coaches are just put to the side. And then we get back to players that are coaches or instructors and I just don't understand that it brings an extra value to have a good coach. And if that's not understood by Matchroom, then we go back to things like this. Look at the teams now, right? So we have Jeremy on one side. On the other side, there's a Busti, which for all the Filipinos is a legend. There's 3 Filipinos in the team. There's Jap and Duong, 2 introvert guys that will come along. Basically, it was a Filipino team. And in Europe, we have an American coach, 3 guys from Europe, actually 4, because, Federer is basically still European, although he plays for America. And he has Skylar, who's the pick already, the captain for the Mosconi Cup, and is nowhere on the rankings. And I don't know why is he the pick, right? That just these things all just don't seem logical to me. And when hindsight is a great thing, so when you see it's 11-3, things didn't work. But I think that was quite visible before the tournament started that wouldn't work. And I heard you say in the podcast that these guys were great because their character and they're so laid back. But this is not about laid back. This is sport. This is not about friendship. This is not about having fun. This is about fucking winning a cup, right? Yeah. If you compete, you win. And that's the whole thing that your task as a captain or as a coach is to make sure that your team is ready, prepared, and able to win. And if that doesn't happen, well, you've done something wrong and you have to change things. And I was kind of surprised. Last year, Paul Boyce did Team Europe, right? The thing he said after the Reyes Cup, he said, I didn't know it was so difficult. I can't do these things. Well, what is the change? The change is not to replace the captain by a guy that is able to do it. No, the change was to bring in the rest of the world, which doesn't make sense to me because, again, the rest of the world is different continents that play 1 month later against each other in the Mosconi Cup.
Yeah.
And so I think you devaluate the Mosconi Cup by making these guys friends. I'm an old-fashioned guy like Darren. I like fight. I'm a boxer. I like to fight.
Would you have?
And I don't want to be friends with my opponent. I respect them. We talk afterwards, but I do not want to be friends at the table. I'm hoping that they're missing. I'm hoping that they're miscuing, right? So now suddenly I'm their friend. I have to play with them. I have to show them how I break. We have to talk about the lineups. How do we win a team match like this? How do we do the strategy? Things you don't want to I don't think that you will fully trust the guys that you're playing with as you do when you play for the European side or for your American side.
Yeah, and we talked about that as far as how is JJ going to be able to get through to some of these guys given his resume versus Jake, which we all know is going to be that locker room type captain. But let me ask you this: like, what if Sky and Jason are getting captain's money, right? So they're getting double money for being player captains. Then what's the issue here? Why aren't they bringing in formal captains to get this show back on track or get these teams back on track? Because it's not competitive, and it hasn't been competitive in quite some time.
Exactly. So what is the solution to get it back to competitiveness? In my opinion, the show format, and that's also a reason why I'm not visiting as a coach the WNT events anymore. In fact, I don't want to go to any tournaments anymore. I want to stay at home and train with people where I'm passionate for. But what were we talking about? Sorry.
No, just like if it's not a financial situation, right? Because they're forking up the money for these guys to be captains, right? So if it's not a financial decision, then why is it, in your opinion, that you feel like they're not Matchroom is not bringing in captains to get this more competitive?
To be honest, you would have to ask Matchroom. I don't know. I can only assume things. I have to go from assumptions. What I do know is that the coaches that have been there, like real coaches, were always not as going with the flow with Matchroom as the guys that are here now. And I think that Matchroom has a hard time listening to criticism from outside. They're listening to their own inner circle, and I think it's stronger and it's better for your own growth as a company if you listen to outside criticism also, especially when they come from people that have proven that they know what they're talking about. And I think that's missing at the moment. I think, and there's also a reason why I don't want to go anymore, because it's drifting away from the sports. For me, it's all about sports. Pool is a sport, right? And it's getting more and more to a show game, to a social media thing. Everything needs to shine and be great and glorious and hail all the tournaments. But we lost the World Pool Masters. We lost the World Cup of Pool. So is everything going so great? I don't know. And the Mosconi Cup, meanwhile, is back to losing every time for America. That's not the idea. It needs to be competitive.
Do you think it can be mutually exclusive, though, Coach? Do you feel like there is some balance to be had in terms of playing the Matchroom, like building up the event type of atmosphere, and then also giving a coach like yourself free reign to be able to, do with your team as you please?
Well, first of all, it's not my ambition to do this anymore, but I understand what you mean.
In general. Yeah.
There's a new generation, like a guy like Micek Radisnik is now a real coach, really educated. Niels is coaching for a long time already. Rolf, Darren, these guys are veterans, have been in a lot of Mosconi Cups and winning Mosconi Cups, and they understand how things work and how you prepare and how you need to shift. Everybody needs to shift a little bit to the middle to create a team. And that's a very, very complicated and difficult process to make it work. So that needs specific skills. And I think outside skills are better than the inside skills, because again, at some point you're playing the guy that's now in your team and you're the captain of, you're playing in a tournament, the guy does something with the rec, and there's always something between players. And then you get these hidden dislike of each other at some point. The way, look at Eagle Eye, right? He jumped on our chair. On Shane Verbonic's chair. Things like that will never be forgotten. If I'm the coach, I will remind my players that he did this and that we need to get this guy, a loss on his resume. We try to make sure that we find some. Listen, you don't have to tell, as a coach, you don't have to tell your players what to do, how to play, whatever. There's a strategy, there's a lineup. The most important thing that I needed to find every year is to ignite this greatness that is inside all these players, because they're all great players. How do you ignite them to play great. Look at this year at Federer. He's the world number one. Right? Did he play that well? Did someone ignite him? Did he feel the same pressure as Shane always felt, that he needed to carry the whole team? Was there someone to comfort him, to make sure that he felt more relaxed? I don't know. I wasn't there, but the results tell me that it was not his best tournament and his best event.
Talk to me more about that lack of passion and enthusiasm and just spirit from Team Rest of the World that you saw over the last few days, because we went on and on about it, where they just look like, I've said multiple times, I felt like they were there collecting money. I felt like they were there just to kind of be part of a show. And especially once they got behind, maybe they went into it with great intentions, right? To like upset the Asians, and they were going to have their hands full with that team no matter what. And they all knew it. But like, you saw it right away once they got from behind that there was no gas in that tank from any of those guys in terms of like actually putting up fights. And even when the Asians were up, like convincingly, I saw more focus and determination and killer instinct from those guys sitting with a 7-game lead than I saw from any of those Rest of the World guys.
Well, maybe it's also the experience. If you played Mosconi Cup, this seems like a bit of a substitute and like a weak substitute. So you don't have the same energy. And if you have a guy like Jason feeds off the energy. Well, there was no energy. He couldn't bring it himself. He didn't play great in the beginning. So now, for me, first of all, if the result is like this, then you pick the wrong players. As simple as that. Because we have so many great players in Europe that you can definitely find a team that is going to be competitive against Asia. First of all, we miss Filler and Kachi, which I don't know why, because I don't follow the politics, but it's absolutely crazy that Matchroom is constantly talking about we want to develop the game. It's all about the players, and now the number 1 and 2 or 2 and 3 players on their list are not playing. When I stopped with in 2019, it was told to me by the management, it's not about the preparation anymore. It's not about the boot camps. It's not about the travels. We have a ranking now, so now the ranking determines who's playing. And now we're disregarding the ranking for whatever reason. That's what I don't like. It's always on the cost of the players. It's always on the expense of the players. There's always someone getting hurt, and it's never the organizers. It's never the federation. It's always the players, and that's what I hate. Why are these guys not playing? Fillers should be there all the time. There's no doubt in your mind that Filler should not be on the team, right? He's always there. I don't care what he's done, if there's political shit going on, then you do something wrong when Filler's not playing your team. As simple as that.
Yeah. What do you got, Mike?
And let me ask you this about coaching. We've talked to players over the years, and they've always said, we don't need a coach. We know how to play. We need a captain and a leader. Do you agree with that? And what is in your mind is the difference? What are the subtle differences between coach, captain, and leader?
Well, the captain can be a coach, obviously, leader at the same time. Yeah. Just having some coaching skills. Listen, coaching is all about the character. A trainer is all about technique. A coach about the character, blending people together, definitely in the team setting, the preparation, and making sure that your players feel so comfortable that they can actually play their best game. I've been there 10 times. I know how hard it is when people are shouting in your neck 2.5 meters behind you, or 3 yards for the Americans.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks. But when they're shouting in your neck and there's so much noise, so much pressure, and they still perform. Like I'm a coach, I've been there 10 times, and I'm in awe when I see these guys performing in this pressure. But they do. And the reason why is that we do a good preparation, we do visualization, we try to make agreements, we make sure things are clear before we start the preparation. We make agreements. We made a code of honor that every player could put in one specific rule that he wants everybody to stick by. And that meant that everybody had to come a little bit close to each other. So we focused on similarities. We didn't focus on differences. We tried to blend the team. We made sure that everybody felt comfortable. And then and then you got to be smart in your lineup. Well, that's not specific for a coach, but especially the character thing. What do players know about character typing, visualization, imagery, concentration, nerve handling? It's their knowledge is from experience from themselves, but everybody's different. So you got to have a lot of information in order to handle a group. Now, there's a lot of people that can do this as long as you are educated and you understand how that works. And to be honest, if you have a bad record in the Mosconi Cup or in the team events, then simply you have not shown to be able to do that. Because none of these teams exist of bullshit players or pancakes. They're all great players.
Yeah.
How can you lose 11-3? Or in the Mosconi Cup, lose every time? And that annoys me, because again, the players are trying hard, but they just are not given the right tools and the right environment to excel.
Let me ask you this, Coach. In terms of what this does for future generations, when you have systems like this, like with a Sky and a Jason being captains, right? And that they're probably going to go with someone that's close to them, or they're probably going to go and listen to whoever Matchroom picks. Like, how does this set back the future of European talent and American talent in terms of their willingness to go and train and compete and actually put forth an honest effort to get on a team like that?
Well, if you're a young American, you have a much better chance than when you're a young European. That's for sure at the moment. What it does, I don't know. Everybody's still looking at the glory and the best case scenarios because that's your ambition. And when you're young, you're trying to find the highest level. So I don't think that changes a lot. But for a guy, for example, like Pius now, who just won a tournament, he's on number 2, 3. He's not even certain to be in the Mosconi Cup in his mind, because he knows that they're not always they're picking the same people every time. So right, so it's difficult if you're not in the ranking on the first 3 spots. You kind of don't have a chance if you're not Jason or Sky.
Yeah, I mean, if you just look at the rest of the world team, Federer with 2 semifinals was in there. Yeah. Jason, no deep runs in 2025. Fran, no deep runs in 2025. Sky with a final 8 in the last month, but other than that, sitting at 20,000. There's no Moritz is the only one with any kind of major tournament win, but you prioritize a ranking system in a tour, but yet you're not pushing forward guys who are actually going out there and earning their stripes anymore.
And you're not balancing the team. So remember when there was a lot of talk about Federer being the team or Al-Qaeda that year. Al-Qaeda was chosen.
Right.
The reason being because the rookie, Fran, would be much more comfortable with his friend on his side, or with his with his buddy. That was the reason, right? Now Moritz Neuheisen is the rookie, and who is rooming up with Moritz on every tournament? Pius.
Yeah.
So now look at Morris playing with Federer. Why didn't the coach tell Morris, listen, you're a rookie, shut the fuck up when Federer's playing?
Yeah. And there was a lot of chirping there between those two.
It's nothing personal against Moritz, but someone should have told him, listen, you're nervous, I understand, but you're playing with the number 1 player in the world. Let him do his thing. Right?
Yeah.
So, and every time he cut 10, 15 seconds out of the preparation of Federer, and Federer has a very strict preparation regime, right? And it was constantly disturbed. Things like that annoy me to bits, because it's so easy to correct that. Just tell him, listen, talk when you're asked. Remember when Tyler came in the first year? We were in the practice room, and Tyler was also trying to tell people what to do. I went to Tyler, I said, listen, Tyler, know your place. It's the first time you're playing. Don't talk to Shane like you're going to tell him what to do, or Corey, or whatever. Stay calm, stay cool. Don't try to tell everybody what should be done. Just know your place. Blend in easily. Otherwise, these guys will irritate you, or they will be annoyed by you, and respect, trust, everything is gone. So you got to make sure that everything blends together every time. The balance in the team is incredibly important.
Yeah.
I don't think there was a lot of balance in this team.
No, and you saw that
No,
even if you listen to the commentary with Scott. I mean, everyone could see just with Moritz saying, you got 20 seconds, you got plenty of time in it. But like Federer's already focusing on what he wants to do, but then he hears that and he has to like absorb that for a second, and then it's just. And even towards the end, I mean, you saw that their last decision was one that they were conflicted about between those two,
Yeah.
which ended up being their last shot of the entire tournament. What do you got,
Now,
Mike?
if you've done Mosconi Cups or you've done team events, you know these things can happen. You know
right.
what kind of agreements and rules you need to make when you play as a double, because there's a very, it's a very fine balance to play with each other and both play at your A game. It's very easy to disrupt each other's concentration or feel insecure about the position because that was not the position I would play, and then trying to play better position for your partner. There's a lot of things that go wrong if you don't make great good agreements and good rules for that. And that seemingly hasn't been done because otherwise things like this would not happen. That's what annoys me. These small details make all the difference when you play a team like Team Asia. They're absolute monsters. Like you've got Tua, you got Biari, you got the big guy AJ Menace, who's absolutely a menace for the future, to be honest. And then Yap, Jesus, Yap also, and then the Wong, right, the silent assassin. I mean, they're a great player. So
it's a great, but everyone seems to kind of like know their role even within that. I mean, you kind of see that with Yap deferring to Beato, even though Yap has won more majors this year, but everyone respects Beato as the alpha. You know what I mean? And Chua coming in as a role player, Duong just kind of doing the thing with pointing his cue. You know what I mean? And Carlo empowering guys. I saw that over the last few days where he's just like, listen, you do your thing, and I'm gonna be able to go off of what you decide, but I'm not going to try to change. Yeah, exactly. What do you got, Mike?
And Team World finally has some good recs. So I think they were 3-2 down. The whole team comes into the arena and starts talking to these guys. That is so not done. These guys need to focus, need to concentrate on the next. I mean, you were very lucky in the end to win that match still. But it's not because the focus is high or the preparation was good or, it was all up and down, inconsistent. If you don't have a good preparation and you don't have a blending of the team, you get because they're great players, sometimes they get great results and sometimes it's inconsistent. And once you get on the losing side, like on the first day, it's going to be really hard to turn it around. I remember in 2007, the first or the second year I did it, first year we played 12-12, which is absolutely crazy. Second year, we were 4-1 down in Las Vegas after day one. Well, we needed to talk. We had some discussions, talks. We made new agreements. We made new rules. I was still able to work with the setup, with the lineup, so I could actually pull people out of the doubles and make them play only singles. So that I had more tools at the time. But after day two, we were 5-5. That's what you need to do. You need to turn around immediately. If you're 4-1 down, 4-0 down, and the next match in the next day you lose, then it's bye-bye.
Yeah. What do you got, Mike?
Let me ask this. It seems like a lot of it's about preparation and knowing the players and working on those agreements and that factor and knowing. And you were very good at that when you turned Team USA around in knowing. I mean, you have 5 guys; they all have 5 different personalities. This guy needs to have his back rubbed, and this guy needs to you need to get in his face, and this guy you need to get the focus more, things like that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Some needs to have their ass kicked. Yeah.
Yes. So is that what all that preparation is about? Is about really knowing each person's personality and their role and what they need, and making sure everybody understands that?
Yeah, definitely. That's basically the whole clue. I need to put my
We got to charge a computer. It looks like.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, go ahead, do your thing. It's a lot of good stuff, Mike. And I love the candor from Coach because he's not holding anything back. And you're seeing a lot of these guys these days where like they're afraid to kind of answer things openly and honestly. Whenever they're getting asked things, and you see them kind of towing the line in a lot of aspects, and I get it because you want to kind of protect your ass, but it gets to a point where it can get a little cringy.
Well, after watching day one, what would your message have been? What would the locker room have been like after day one this year, Johan?
Well, it's very easy to sit here and I would have done this, or I would have done that. I don't know the details. If you want to have a good answer to that, I should have been there and I should have known what's going on. I can't say now because I haven't been chatting with the players at all. And actually, I wasn't interested in this event so much. But, since Crystal put it on and then they started watching, and I'm like, what's going on? 4-0. And you keep watching because, it's annoying and it's painful to watch, but I do want to see what's going on. Because that tells me something again, how to turn things around and why it doesn't happen. I know a lot of these players and I can see what's happening. I can see, more or less how they feel, how they play. And, I'm going to talk to a lot of these guys afterwards because I'm curious why this implosion happened. Because if I know why it happened, maybe I can, with my own players, avoid it the next time that I see it with them.
Yeah.
We learn something, right?
Is there any interest on your part, like if you were to get offered a spot for a captaincy, is that anything that you would be interested in going forward?
No. To be honest, I feel there's a new generation. My time is history. What I like to do and what I've chosen to do, because I'm almost 60 years now, I don't want to be walking around in toxic environments anymore. And the matchroom events at this moment are very toxic for me. It doesn't bring me any happiness. When I go home, I feel dirty. I feel disregarded. I feel denigrated. So I'm not going to go there anymore. That's for the next generation. I'm at home, working with players here at home, trying to make them better, trying to make them reach their ambition and their goals, which I'm still very passionate about. And that's the thing I still want to do, and that I'm going to do. And then, well, no more major events. I might go to the Predator events and the WPA events, but that's probably it.
Give me your thoughts on the Mosconi coach in terms of the Americans and the Europeans. Sorry, Mike, and what you think that it's going to be like come in another whatever it is month and a half.
Well, I mean, what do you want to know? It's the same story as last year, the same story as the year before. Who are you going to pick? Is there finally an AJ Menace in America?
I think so. I think there's a young, but I don't know if he ain't gonna get the call, But if Shane doesn't go and make it on that team, then I think you're gonna see a very different team. And I think if we were to look at the Americans that are playing in the Philippines Open, there's a pretty good indication as to who Team USA is gonna be this year. I think Lucas goes in. I think Billy goes in. For sure, Sky goes in. I don't know if Shane's gonna go in at all. And then I'm assuming Tyler, but as well as anyone how much he gets, what his perception is like amongst those boys in that locker room, and how they go and think of that kid.
Yeah. So are you asking me if Lucas is going in, or?
Well, just like how competitive do you think it's going to be, or what do you expect in terms of the outcome, and even just the spirit of the fighter? Do you feel like we're going to get another just these disingenuous storylines and a half-assed effort, and then they're going to be blowing smoke in the air and singing the music and getting their asses kicked 11-2 all over again?
Mexico created a setting where the show and the noise and the enthusiasm of almost not always positive, but the enthusiasm of the audience is playing a big part. Like in this environment, guys like Jason and Phil thrive. And the way that Team USA needs to do the preparation is more Ryder Cup style. They need to prepare because they don't prepare that much without the Mosconi Cup. They're not training all that hard, except for Shane, of course, and Federer. But they need a different approach, and they don't really. The only guy that actually likes this atmosphere is Sky. And Sky is not on the top of his game at the moment. So, he was an MVP, but that's 6-7 years ago. But since then, it's not been all hail and glory for him. I'm glad that he's got a great family, and that's absolutely lovely. But it didn't make him play more pool or train harder, or it's just such a different culture in America. It's so hard to overcome this, and if you don't put in a good preparation, you are very dependent on the inconsistency, which can be good and bad. And then I hope that you're in an upward wave with some of the players. Then you might get a win once every so many years, but it will definitely not be like look at the ranking at the moment. Do you know what is the average ranking of the American team?
I'm listening.
So the first 5 players on average ranking is 19.4. That's their average spot on the ranking. For Europe, that's 7.2.
Yep.
In my opinion, since this now has become quite a good ranking, right? Everybody's playing everything. In my opinion, that's not even a competition. Average almost 20th spot on the, and if you actually count Federer out, who's actually a Russian/European, and now he's playing for America, but if you put him out and you put only Americans in, you're on an average spot in the ranking of 26.
Yeah,
like
that's not alarming. I don't know what is in the comparison to Federer with coming in. Go ahead, Mike.
It was not all that much different when you first took over Team USA, and you're talking about how different it is for USA players, and they don't have that commitment to training, 12 months a year type of thing. In the first year you were here, it went miserably. It almost didn't want to come back the second year because it was such a different culture than the players you got to coach in Europe, right? What were the things you did to turn it around from year 1 to 2 to make them more of that European type team commitment wise the second year than the first year we went in?
Well, first of all, I took in an American or a European style player, which nobody knew, which was Tyler. Then I made a program as preparation was going to play internationally, because I felt very much Americans were very full of themselves. Like we're the greatest country in the world, we're the best players, we're the world champions, we win the US Open, all that bullshit. But they didn't understand that Europe, Asia, everybody's training hard and really playing tough. So I wanted to show that to the American players, because only Shane was actually traveling around. So once we got to see Russia, we got to see Holland, the Euro Tour, and we actually had quite a good streak in winning, by the way. But it made them understand that the level that everybody plays is very high, and also because the trips, it blends better as a team, so you get to learn each other better. So, but the fact that we played internationally, we had to travel, and we saw other players. I still feel one of my best or biggest achievements is not in a match. What happened in Russia was absolutely great. I was already training with the Russian selection for 2 years, right? Sinakov, Stefanov, of course, Dudanesh, all these guys. And then we had a training session in Russia. And what I did, I would put on every table, I put an American and a Russian together to play the exercises. Now the exercises, the Russians played my exercise already for 2.5 years, and they showed such a great level and a great control over these exercises and over the way speed control, line control, etc., and especially arm control, that that taught the Americans something like, hey, what's going on here? So all these small things made them realize, that you really got to be tough, and you really got to be a team, and that you really got to pay attention to the details in order to be even able to be competitive in an event like this.
Let me ask you this, because I've heard from a lot of players, and this is not like anything new, but Sky's pretty vocal as far as his lack of training, his lack of preparation, his lack of practice, and he's like, and I've heard that even from over the course of this week out there, him being vocal in that regard. What does that do for the rest of the guys when that's Matchroom's captain? That's the guy that's supposed to be the leader.
Yeah, the leader thing is definitely something annoying for a guy that never practices. On the other hand, I had in my Dutch selection and the European selection, Team Europe, I had a guy like Nick Vandenberg, who also didn't train a lot, but at least what he definitely did, we were preparing on the big events very thoughtfully and very thoroughly. So that's at least what we did. And these guys have a lot of talent, and they don't need to train all year long. But there needs to be specific periods in the year that they are working hard on their arm, on their strategy, on their food, on their sleep, to make sure that at least they win some percentages, and they're not only dependent on their talent.
Right.
Because I like to be structure dependent instead of talent dependent. Because talent dependency gives me inconsistent results, and when I'm dependent on the structure, and when the structure is good, I get like a good basic level, which always guarantees me competitiveness. Understand?
Yeah, no. I mean, that's great. That's great insight. That's absolutely great insight, and such a thoughtful way to go and approach it, Coach. Mike, what do you got?
Well, how do you change that in the U.S. without a
right? We had some discussions about that. It starts with you.
Yeah.
You gotta make sure that the youth is educated the correct way. And you gotta make sure that you have trainers and instructors and coaches that understand what they're doing and that they know where they need to go. If you know what is the level of the top, what are their skills, what do they do? It's just like benchmarking in companies. How do the Asians get where they are now? There's the competition level in Manila, there's the education level in Taiwan. So pick it up, steal from them, and implement it on your own system. And don't think that because you play one pocket for money that you can run tables and nine ball. You have to change that culture, and you have to change the attitude towards school. The thing that I'm proud about is that every time when I went out with one of my teams, whether it's Team Europe, Team Russia, Team Holland, Team USA, everybody always said it looks like a sport team. It looks like they're focused, they're prepared, they're ready to go. That's what you need. You don't need all this ha 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 la la la. It's also fun to be here. It's not fun to lose fucking 11-3.
Yeah.
Well, not for me. I mean, seeing that these guys were not so disappointed by it, but maybe they already accepted it in day 3. But it's just annoying to see people not like. I mean, here's a cue on the wall here that been thrown because someone missed a jump shot. That's the intensity that you need on these. You need to want to break something if you miss or if you play bad.
But is that more of like needing to change the culture or change the players?
Sorry?
No, I was saying, is that more of like needing to change the culture or change the players? Because it seems like it's looking at those guys go out there and laugh and smile, and it when they're getting their asses kicked is a little embarrassing, So like, how would you have to go and shift that?
Bring in Darren Appleton.
Yeah.
Because he knows what intensity is. He doesn't like to lose at all, and he will be very, very angry and not happy when the intensity is that low. He doesn't mind to lose. I mean, he doesn't like to lose, but he doesn't mind to lose when you're playing your heart out.
Right.
But the rule that was I still have it here, the code of honor, the 6 rules that we had to put up in the Mosconi Cup. Darren's rule was never give up. Always fight till the end. That says it all. That's not what I'm seeing with the world team.
So let me ask you this: you said you don't ever you don't want to be in this team format anymore. If you had to give a list of the top 5 people you could be culture changing coaches going forward, who would be on that list? What would your top 5 be?
Wow. Is it even possible? That's the first question.
Yeah.
Is it possible? Anything possible.
Well, think about this, right? I don't think America's like they're the greatest country in the world. That's what you always tell to everybody. You always have a flag in your garden of America. And I do not think that guy from Europe going to your game, to your country, telling you in your game what to do is going to be very successful in the beginning. That you need to.
I disagree. Oh. You did it. You did it.
Yeah,
Plus, a lot of these other guys, but also a lot of these other guys you've talked about either have lived in the U.S. or have spent a lot of time in the U.S. It's not like sending over someone who just has always been in Europe, right? So you guys like Darren, you've mentioned guys like Niels. These are guys who either spent all the time. So I think that they would get a better reception. So, if there were no barriers like that, who would be your picks?
Oh man, that's a difficult question, but I would definitely,
I'm writing down for the suggestion.
You need a visionaire, right? You can't just have a very enthusiastic coach. You need a guy with a vision, and these guys are hard to find. And I always like Barry when he talks about the vision and that he wants to create a bigger pool world and a greater possibilities for pool. But at the moment, I'm not seeing it, to be honest. Right? If you have a connection, you have your own football club, and you are able to make a Netflix documentary about your own company, and you can't get an outside sponsor into this world, that doesn't make sense to me. Yeah. It doesn't make sense to me if you are that high up. So when you're that high up, your connections are also with these kind of people that are company owners and large companies. Why is it still not being possible for Meashroom to bring Nike, McDonald's, American Airlines, whatever, some big company into the pool world and make it all so much easier? Now, I'm not an expert in this, but that's from an objective point of view. If I see how big these guys are in their company, then it just seems quite strange that you can't even bring a good sponsor in from outside the pool world. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just completely ignorant about these things. So, and then then it is my bad. But that's what it looks like.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff, Coach, for sure.
Sorry. So about the question, you need visionaires, and I don't know a lot of visionaires, but I think guys like Alex will be able to to create something because he's educated. Niels, Darren, a guy like Andrea Klazovic, which is not the name that's in the front of you, but that's a visionaire. These are guys that actually know how how it should work, how it would work. So.
Okay.
What else you got, Mike?
Well, I just wanted to, before we go, I know we're getting a little bit long, but I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier, which is kind of interesting, and that's that you won't go anymore. And I don't want to ask a question that's about you versus Matchroom or anything like that, but I want to ask a broader question about coaching. In all sports, individual sports, tennis, things like that, everyone has their personal coach, and you've become the personal coach for a lot of players trying to build up. And what you've gotten when you've gone to events is, and not just you, Alex as well, is gotten resistance from being able to work with your players during the event. Tell me how and why you think that should be allowed and would be beneficial in the future. And given how many players are at an event, if everybody becomes unwieldy, how could that work? How could you see that working, where a coach would be with a player at an event?
Well, the preparation is done when you go to the event, right? Your big preparation has been done, finished. When you're there, the most important part of the preparation near a match is the last hour. The last hour in the practice room, the last half an hour when they practice and they're actually practicing just before the match. That's where you want to make sure that they're in the right mental state. I don't need to be in the practice room all the time. So when they're just warming up and they have to play tomorrow, I don't need to be there. But the last half hour for the match, I would definitely like to be with my player, make sure that I know that he's doing the good things, that his mindset is correct, that he's not distracted, that he's not over-concentrated, that he's not hyped. All these things are very precise and very hard to balance out. When you work with a player for a longer time, it's easier, of course, but it's not the easiest thing to do. And I don't want to brag about it. I'm a modest guy, but my results kind of show that I'm kind of good at it. So for any coach, Same with Alex on the World Champions. Also wasn't allowed in the practice room. And then when you see parents sitting there and photographers and all kinds of people are in the practice room, but the coach are not allowed, yeah, that hurts. And then I think, okay, this year, first year, World Championships, that's fine with me. But then next year, try to change that. Nothing will change. It's exactly the same. And then it's just a disregard and a disdain for my profession, for the things that I worked so hard for, that I educated myself in, I learned. I went to school, I went to university for these things, and I have 25 years of experience. And I'm not going to tell Matchroom how to organize a tournament, but they definitely don't understand the influence and the impact that a coach can have on a player's game. And that annoys me to bits. And then you just make a bigger practice room. So more people can go in. 4 tables, so more people can sit around and the coach can be there. Yeah. Imagine that Ronnie O'Sullivan would be refused to have his personal trainer in the practice room. You think that's going to happen? And that's why we are still, in sort of ways, we're still a kindergarten sport, unfortunately.
Yeah, I get it. Interesting.
We're getting there, but long way to go.
Yeah, I think that's where a lot of the passion comes from. It's like we all see the potential, and then just to kind of have these little things kind of happen over and over again and consistently, and it just you end up looking like the kindergartner at the table, in so many ways, So
who's looking like kindergarten at the table? It's always the players, right?
Yeah.
Now these look like dumbasses. They're the best players in the world, top 10 players in the world, and they look like dumbasses. That annoys me.
Yeah.
That should have never been happened because the format was wrong, the preparation was wrong, the appointment of coaches and the picks of the coaches were wrong or not sufficient. So now you have a completely out of balance tournament, and that shows because 11-3. So who was happy to see this from the rest of the world? The Filipinos liked it, yeah, sure.
Yeah, well, yeah.
We beat America 11-2 once with Team Europe. When I came home, I was pissed. Not because I felt like this is not competition. I want to have competition. I want to fight. I want to, I'd rather win 11-10 with 4-4 in the last match and drama than 11-2 and.
Right. Yeah. 100%. And you see that like there's that in some of those guys, and then there's not in some of these other guys, and so how you can kind of find that balance and being able to bring that out. That's why you're in the position you're in, and so we always appreciate your insight, Coach. Hopefully we can get you on before the Mosconi Cup again. If anyone would like information on how to train with you, how can they get a hold of you and how can they reach out to you, Coach?
I'm on Instagram and Facebook, Johan Ruysink Official. And, I still train with people, amateurs and top players. So that's just a lot of fun. Yeah. So we can continue doing that.
You got anything else, Mike?
No, it's been great. Been a lot of fun. Thanks, Johan. Always good to see you.
On the podcast, boys.
Appreciate it, buddy. Thank you so much, Johan. We'll see you later, my man. All right. Mike, we're gonna hang out for just a second. Mike, give me your thoughts on how that went, Mike, before we get out of here.
Well, listen, we all know Johan's abilities, and we all know, he's unique in the pool world. There's a lot of guys. He has great respect for Darren, for Niels, for Alex. But the real coaches, the real properly trained coaches who understand all the things that he understands and brings are few and far between. And I think that's been the biggest struggle for Matchroom, is to find those people going forward to make these events more competitive, to make them more sport, that type of thing. But something needs to be done soon, real soon. I think the first thing is, please, if we learned anything from this, if you want this to get better and you want these teams to get better and you want it to be more competitive and more antagonistic, get rid of the player coaches. That's the worst idea ever. And find the right coaches. I think it's at the point in their careers where a Darren and a Niels and maybe a Ralph, certainly Alex, guys like that can come back into the sport as coaches and help us get back to where it's at least competitive, and you don't have a bunch of people looking at their phones and hugging each other between matches after they lose, and have 10 guys up there pointing at different parts of the table when someone's trying to shoot in 30 seconds. All that stuff, to me, how it's broken down over the last few years. And so the ship needs to be righted really fast. And that became even more obvious and apparent the more we talked to Johan about what he sees watching it.
The part that's like more concerning for me when you mention all those guys is all of them have either gotten shoved out the back door or on the brink of getting pushed out the back door, And so that's the part.
I don't know that. I don't know. Certainly not Niels. I think Alex. Alex didn't get pushed out. Alex stepped out. Alex was one who decided.
Yeah, but it was part of the reason why was because of how handcuffed he was throughout that process, Mike.
Well, and not being able to pick one player. So, but you can mend fences and get that stuff squared away if you think that these guys are going to be best for what's going forward for this. I would, I'm all for. I would stump right now to have Darren be the head coach of the team say next year.
Look, I don't think anyone can argue that Matchroom puts on the best show, and puts it up on a stage that nobody else has to this point, when it comes to pool. The problem is that it's a subpar product compared to what it could be, and I think that's where a lot of these conversations are rooted, and whether people can take it personally or not take it personally or get offended, maybe you ought to get fucking offended. Maybe you ought to take it personally. Maybe you ought to go and have a chip on your shoulder, because as of right now, these celebrating these lopsided fucking tournaments with half-assed attitudes and no passion is just for the birds, because that's not sports, Mike. That's not any sports that I've watched my entire life. And you can insert any fucking sport, for the life of me, I can't imagine feeling that way, because like Coach, I would be feeling some kind of way today, sitting in that locker room and knowing that we went out there and performed the way they did. Show some pride, show some passion, show some heart, and go out there and start changing the culture. So, but I get why a lot of guys stay quiet. I get why a lot of guys don't want to go and ruffle any feathers. I'm curious to see now, after this is over with. Listen, massive congratulations, Team Asia. I don't think anybody can go and take away anything that they did. We knew who they were before. That's why we barked for this event for so long. We know the dominating force that they are. We just want to, the best team the world can go and produce with the best coach and all these things still may go and get their asses whipped the same way, Mike, but at least they'll go out there and show some fight out there,
Yeah.
So anyhow, Mike, you got anything else before we get out of here?
Nope. Good to go.
All right. We'll see all you guys later. I'm heading to Mexico. What's that?
It's been a fun week.
What, you got some time off, buddy. You earned some time off because I'm going to Mexico tomorrow. So you go. Look, you guys go and enjoy. I'm going to a Hay Ball event. We'll see all you guys and gals later. Thanks, everybody.